One day I met Cecilia. She suffers from a genetic syndrome called Usher's, which causes deafness coupled with tunnel vision that can, over time, lead to blindness. Because of that disability, it made her extremely shy, so it was very difficult to communicate with her. I started studying with her in October 2009, and very quickly she started attending meetings. I would fetch her for the meetings and then drop her off at home afterwards. I lived about 5 minutes from the Kingdom Hall, but she was 30 minutes away. And quickly I realized that she would also need to put in effort to get to the meetings in order to make progress. Cecilia lived close to where she could catch a taxi up to the train line, and then it would be 2 train journeys to get to the Kingdom Hall. So it would take her each way an hour and a half to 2 hours. She also lived in a notoriously unsafe area because of gang violence. But I knew that Cecilia was strong-willed enough and independent enough, in spite of her timidity and reticence, to be able to get herself to the meetings. Cecilia was attending meetings regularly, but instead of a skirt, she wore pants to the meeting.
Whoa, hold on a minute. What was that?
Instead of a skirt, she wore pants to the meeting.
Instead of a skirt, she wore pants to the meeting.
Cecilia, I'm down on my knees. I'm begging you, please,
to not wear pants to the meeting. Well, that took a twist I was not expecting, and I already had concerns, which I'll come to. But wow, I mean, as if we needed any evidence of how controlling and petty this organization is. They managed to find someone who's willing to attend meetings and start on this journey to becoming a Jehovah's Witness. And the big issue that they have to correct is the fact that it's a woman and she's wearing pants to the meeting. It's not drugs, it's not alcohol, it's not crime, it's not immorality. It's the fact that this woman's legs were covered with the wrong type of clothing when she was attending the Kingdom Hall meeting. Speaking of which, this Sharon Hall, who's relating this experience, I don't know which country, by the way, I'm going to guess New Zealand, but I don't know for sure. Sharon Hall talks about how one of the changes Cecilia needs to make before we get to the pants thing is that she needs to start making her own way to the Kingdom Hall, even though for Sharon, it would take her 30 minutes to pick up Cecilia and take her to the Kingdom Hall in her car. Sharon Hall decides, well, Cecilia's an independent woman. She can get herself to the Kingdom Hall, thank you very much, even though it would take her between 90 minutes to 2 hours. And this is, by the way, a JW Broadcasting episode all about sacrifice and all about the need for Jehovah's Witnesses to be balanced in how much they sacrifice themselves for the organization. They're seemingly proud of the fact that they find this woman, Cecilia, who had considerable health issues. We're talking about a woman with impaired senses, impaired hearing, impaired sight, someone who is less able to be aware of what's happening around her and who is around her, a woman who lives, according to Sharon, in a rough neighborhood, and Sharon is still expecting Cecilia to get herself to and from the meeting despite the drastically prolonged travel time, 90 minutes to 2 hours, and despite this placing Cecilia in a vulnerable situation. Because no matter what time of the day she's traveling in a rough neighborhood, and she's less able to know what's happening around her. This, for me, was reckless. It was putting Sharon's comfort and convenience over the needs of Cecilia. My jaw was already on the floor over that side of the story. And then we get to the whole pants thing. So now apparently Sharon's big problem is that she needs to convince her Bible study Cecilia to stop wearing pants to the Kingdom Hall.
So I chatted to Nancy, a sister who at the time was accompanying me to her study most weeks, so that we could try and figure out a way of helping her to make the change she needed to make. It took about a year of gently showing pictures, reviewing the Bible principles, but eventually she did get the point. One of the weekends that she was staying over, I went into her room, and on her bed, neatly laid out, was a skirt and top, ready for the meeting. I thanked Jehovah at that point because finally our patience had been rewarded.
So let's recap, shall we? Sharon Hall meets a lady called Cecilia, someone who suffers with Usher syndrome, a genetic syndrome that causes deafness and tunnel vision and could lead to blindness. Cecilia's problems are that, number one, she's a hindrance to Sharon because Sharon doesn't like having to pick her up and take her to the meetings for a 30-minute car ride. She'd much rather Cecilia spend 90 minutes to 2 hours getting to and from the meetings. That's problem number one. Problem number two is that Cecilia's wearing pants to the Kingdom Hall, and this problem is rectified by Sharon conspiring with someone else in the congregation called Nancy. So Sharon and Nancy are talking about Cecilia behind Cecilia's back and about Cecilia's terrible habit of, again, having the wrong kind of apparel on her legs at the meeting. And so they come up with this plan, but it takes them a year.
It took about a year of gently showing pictures, reviewing the Bible principles, but eventually she did get the point.
Showing pictures and reviewing the Bible principles. What Bible principles? There are no Bible principles for demanding what a woman wears on her legs. Where are you going to find a scripture that says you must wear pants at the Kingdom Hall if you're a woman? There is no such scripture. I would suggest they were leaning more on the showing pictures side of things, because you can find many, many pictures in the publications showing how women should dress at the Kingdom Hall, what's expected of them. It's just that this dress and grooming regulation isn't Bible-based. It's just a case of, frankly, in this case, bullying Cecilia into submission by, ironically, making Cecilia compare herself with others, which we've heard in this broadcast is apparently a bad thing to do. You're not supposed to compare yourself with others. But in this case, Cecilia should compare herself with others in the congregation because she doesn't want to be the odd one out. She doesn't want to be the one who's wearing pants when all of the other women in the Kingdom Hall are wearing skirts or dresses. So this is bullying, quite frankly. This is blatant coercion and manipulation, not a single thing to do with any Bible principles. You will not find a Bible principle or a Bible scripture that says, "Thou shalt not wear pants if thou art a woman."
A day that's etched in my memory is the day that she told me she wanted to get baptized. Cecilia has really become like a daughter to me, and I'm so proud of the enormous strides that she made in the truth. In October 2015, she was baptized. I cried with joy that day. Many, many, many brothers and sisters in the congregation helped me. They accompanied me to her study. They became friends with her. They took over when I went away. I could never have done it on my own. Above all, Jehovah has helped me to cultivate qualities like patience, self-control, humility, compassion. It was really wonderful to play a small part, such a privilege, to help Cecilia to become part of Jehovah's family.
To frankly bully Cecilia into becoming a Jehovah's Witness. I'm sorry, that's what's being described here. I think the coercion and manipulation in this story is palpable. Bear in mind, apparently Cecilia was first contacted October 2009, and it took until October 2015 for her to be baptized. So that's 6 years from first encountering Jehovah's Witnesses to saying, actually, I think I'd like to become one. That doesn't sound like there was all that much enthusiasm on her part. It sounds more as though it was the persistence on the part of Sharon and the fact that she basically wouldn't take no for an answer. She persisted with a young woman who perhaps had some level of emotional dependency, perhaps relished being visited and relished the friendship side of things to the point where she ignored red flags and thought, well, you know, maybe I can weather this. They're pushing me to wear pants at the Kingdom Hall. Never mind, I'm sure they'll give up eventually. A year later, actually, I think I might as well just wear a dress or skirt and have done with it. There's no real drive or enthusiasm that I'm sensing on Cecilia's part. This was all about pushing her. And in the case of the pants story, pushing her using artwork, pushing her using the example of others. Oh, you're the odd one out, Cecilia. Don't you think it would be better if you wore a skirt or a dress like all the other sisters? Which again is forcing her to compare herself with others, forcing her to submit to positive peer pressure. I feel sorry for Cecilia. I feel as though maybe she had needs, maybe she valued the companionship, what she thought was unconditional friendship, and all of this love bombing ultimately had the effect of getting her roped into a cult, albeit over a period of 6 years, which again, in and of itself, would indicate that her heart was never truly in it.